Hi there folks, do something a little different today. I'm going to talk about ways of looking at the world. This is something that fascinates me. One concept which is really important to understand is the difference between tribal and troops. So a tribe is a collection of people who, when new people come in from the outside, they welcome them, they host them, which is an incredibly ancient concept, they learn from them, and they share food and ideas. A troop is a closed group of people run by a strong leader that if anybody from the outside comes in, they kill them. They have very strong views, but they don't share food, they don't share ideas, and they tend to die out. It's so important that we are a tribe and don't run our lives as troops. Got it? But ways of thinking are cognitive ideas. And here's some crazy cognitive ideas that we all tend to have. Number one, back to tribalism. We all tend to believe the same things that other people in our tribe believe. And we're closed to ideas from outside. Two, Dunning-Kruger effect. We tend to overestimate our abilities when we're unskilled, and very skilled people tend to underestimate how good they are at doing their job. Trust your pilot. 3. Availability cascade. That's when you're told something which is completely wrong, but you hear it time and time again, and it started to become true. Of course, it isn't true. In my humble opinion, the Gulf War and its link to 9/11 was a classic example of repetition, which was rubbish. 4. Confirmation bias. We all tend to do it. We go and surf the internet just to prove that we're correct. And the first link that we find that confirms it, yes, got it. All the other links which might explore the issue, we ignore. 5. The curse of knowledge. This sounds a bit elitist, but it's so true. This is the curse of actually not understanding how little other people know. Assuming that, of course they would know that, for example, the EU protects workers' rights. The terrifying thing is, after the British referendum, the number of people who Googled, what is the EU, after they voted. 6. The empathy gap. Being unable to relate to somebody else's ideas. Now, okay, you might not agree with their ideas, but be empathetic and actually listen to them and understand why they need to believe that. 7. The illusionary truth effect. It's easier to believe something that we think is true rather than to look at the facts. So when you read something which is completely false, but it kind of fits into what you believe, it's true. Well, it might not be. Irrational escalation, or the sunk cost idea. That is, hey, I've invested so much time and effort and possible single-click research into this, it must be true, and I'm being told it's not. Yeah, it's easier for me just to carry on and believe my mistruth is correct. Negativity bias. We all suffer from this, where we remember bad things from the past and we tend to forget good things. Normalcy bias. Let me tell you a story. You know, in Hawaii, they make all their own electricity, but there are some low-cost areas that have poorer electricity supply. And one of these regions had terrible power cuts, and they decided to invest a lot of money in upgrading the power supply to these lower cost housings. A very good entrepreneur went out and sold household generators to all these poorer people who bought them all. The investment in that area guaranteed that they wouldn't have a power cut in the future, but because it had happened in the past, they went out and bought an electricity generator. Reactance. That's when we feel that we're right because your ideas are constraining our freedom of choice. Even although our ideas may be incorrect, and so we don't listen to them. The third person effect, and this is something that I really want to counter here on YouTube, and that is that we believe that other people are influenced by the media more than us. Well, we're probably all influenced the same. And that's why YouTube is so great, because I can put forward these concepts, these ideas, and you can discuss them afterwards, unlike TV. Parkinson's law of triviality. Now here's a classic example. In Britain, a big new pressurized water nuclear reactor was being built, and there was an inquiry into this monster that was going to move into the environment. So they had an inquiry, and part of the inquiry was about how a bike path would be built around the nuclear reactor facility. This got so much publicity, and most of the inquiry was just looking at the feasibility plan of the bike path. Of course, the nuclear reactor people were laughing. We weren't discussing the reactor, we were discussing the trivia of the bike path. False consensus effect. That's where we overestimate how many other people agree with us. You might be surprised. Looking at the world in an educated and in different ways, being empathetic to other people's ideas, both ones that you agree with and ones that you don't agree with, is so important. I love that we can, on this channel, discuss ideas. And you know, I get lots of incredibly negative comments which don't agree with me, but I read them. If they're rude and racist, I delete them. If they're interesting but just different from what I believe in, I make a comment or share it with everybody. And most of all, I love comments from people who are much smarter than me, correct me when I'm wrong, and open the discussion for all of us to learn. That's because of you, the truth is out there.